our intention to present a petition to the Presidency and Parliament on the continued lockup of Global Fund donated health commodities at TEMA port. The commodities in reference, valued at more than $40 million, have been wasting away at the port since May 2023. They comprise antiretrovirals for treatment of HIV, medications for treatment of TB, ACTs for treatment of malaria, insecticide-treated nets, rapid diagnostic test kits, and gene expert cartridges, among others. The situation has currently created stockouts in health facilities across the country, leading to needless loss of lives and frustration for health workers. The essence of our intended action, therefore, is to draw the attention of the Presidency and Parliament to the looming public health emergency if no immediate actions are taken on the matter. As a background, we would like to point out that the Global Fund has since 2002 supported Ghana's national response against HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria to the tune of more than $1.2 billion. These funds are made available to the country in cycles of 3 years. For example, for Grant Cycle 6, which was implemented between 2021 and 2023, Global Fund supported the country with more than $250 million. For Grant Cycle 7, which is to be implemented between 2024 and 2026, the Global Fund has earmarked about $248 million for the country. Between May and August 2023, Global Fund, as part of its commitment to GC7, shipped HIV and AIDS and TB and malaria commodities worth about $40 million into the country. In line with regular practice, Global Fund made available $400,000, being 1% of the value of the commodities, to cover procurement and supply management costs. However, at the time the commodities arrived, Government of Ghana informed Global Fund that the amount of $400,000 would not be sufficient for the clearance due to increase in port charges. This was coupled with the fact that Parliament had failed to grant waivers for AU, ECOWAS, and COVID-19 recovery levies. According to government, the required amount in taxes and levies and port charges for the clearance of the commodities will be $3.6 million. Agreements between the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, and the Global Fund, they are not supposed to pay taxes and levies to commodities they donate freely to the country. They also pointed out their relations with other countries where they do not pay such levies and taxes. Regrettably, government insisted on the payment, and this is what led to the deadlock in the clearance process, which has festered to date. As we speak, we are not sure of the storage conditions of the commodities. We are not sure whether these delicate commodities are being sheltered under the right temperatures or they are being exposed to the vagaries of the weather. Our greatest fears are that if no action is taken now, by the time the medications are cleared, some may have expired or may no longer be safe for human consumption. In March 2024, a 12-member delegation from the Global Fund paid a working visit to the country to follow up on the locked-up commodities. In spite of all their efforts, they did not make any headway, and the commodities still remain uncleared at the ports. They have therefore indicated that Ghana risks losing all global fund support if government fails to act on the matter. To start with, they have already suspended all commodity shipments to the country until the ones at the ports are cleared. This development has dire consequences for the hundreds of thousands of our compatriots whose daily survival depends on free medications donated by the Global Fund. For example, there are presently more than 250,000 persons living with HIV whose ARVs are paid for by the Global Fund. Secondly, this development is also bad news for the country's health sector because the Global Fund has recently announced its commitment to providing additional $100 million for health systems strengthening. A second issue which requires urgent attention is Ghana's GC7 co-financing commitment. It is important to explain that the approach of the Global Fund in its support to countries is to encourage domestic investments in health systems and also towards the three diseases in order to accelerate progress towards ending them as public health threats by the year 2030. Consequently, as per the framework agreement, Ghana must commit to contributing 15% of the GC7 grants, that is $248 million, which translates to about $45 million, to shore up the support from Global Fund. The agreement letter to this effect requires the signatures of the Ministers for Health and Finance and ought to have been submitted in May 2023, at the time the country was submitting the GC7 funding request. However, this letter has not been signed for the past 1 year and is now posing as a threat to the disbursement of funds to the country. In view of the above, we, the leadership of CSO networks, whose area of operations mainly focus on HIV and AIDS and malaria and TB, plan to stage a mass public demonstration to present a petition to the presidency and parliament for immediate action on these two critical issues. We wish to use this medium to invite all CSO activists and all well-meaning Ghanaians across the 16 regions of the country to join us. The proposed date is Wednesday, April 17, 2024, and the convergence point is Obra Sport, Kwame Circuit Interchange, at 7 a.m. The proposed route is through Akwaje Interchange to Jubilee House and later to Parliament through Liberation Circle.
Communities and civil society have a lot of power to make change, and this is what we stand for. And this is in solidarity with our colleagues who are infected and affected by TB, HIV, and malaria. For malaria, we are all part of it. Now, one important thing is that Global Fund has certain principles that they work with. One of them is country ownership, which is very important because Global Fund might one day transit. What will happen if Global Fund decide, maybe in the next 3 years, to transit? Because then we have challenges with resources now. And it is also important that communities and civil societies are the center of whatever we are doing in this country, because their voices matter, because they are on the ground, they know what is happening, and they are affected and infected by the disease, apart from the general population. If you look at malaria, Africa has the highest burden of malaria. If you look at TB, Africa has the highest burden of TB. If you look at HIV, Africa has the highest burden of all these diseases. Now, countries help us to own our own health. Why should we leave these resources? More importantly, the commodities at the port. There has been a lot of effort. I'm on their platform And I've been seeing this communication for the past 1 year. Several assurances, and it's so disheartening to see that Ghana, our government has not been able to clear this up till now. And it is really mind-boggling. Now, it is important that the government knows that the citizens need these services. We cannot just compromise the lives of people, especially the vulnerable population in this country, to die because of somebody's irresponsibility. And I think this has to continue. Global Fund, I'm actually not talking for Global Fund, I'm talking as a Ghanaian. Global Fund is really there to support all of us. But one important thing is that we must show political will. We all know that health is political will. If the government decides to support this, they can use half a minute to clear it. The question is, what is the problem? Civil society and communities want to know. Now, one important thing that I want to talk about is that a lot of countries are granting immunity to the Global Fund. The immunity means that when they bring you commodities, you must allow free clearance. What is the blockage? That is the question. Why is the highest office of this country, the presidency, promising us that, oh, it will be cleared, and then only to know that the things are still there? I think these are questions that we have to ask to protect the image of the sovereign country that we are all part of, and also to make sure that Global Fund resources are protected and secure. The CCM is supposed to oversee Global Fund resources and everything that comes to this country. And I'm happy that this is being organized with the CCM leading, with civil society and communities being part of it. I mean, we cannot do anything. We cannot strengthen health systems. We cannot strengthen community systems without the voices of communities, without the voices of civil society. I want to add that Global Fund new strategy is putting people and communities at the center of the strategy. Look at the resources that they've given to us as a country. Should we leave the resources? And commodity is part of the resources. So should we leave it? So my worry as a person on the board and a community member and a civil society member is that we are not serious as a country if this continues. We need to stand up. And the voices might stand up. Joe, hey! Joe, hey! We cannot wait for life to be lost because of people's irresponsibility and people's personal interest. Thank you.
Commodities and medications to be cleared from the port. My colleagues have already said how painful it is for us to see or to think that the leadership of our country does not care about us. That people from outside would buy the needed medication, the needed equipment, commodities to help Ghanaians. And the things have arrived at the port and are seated there. And the fact that we are supposed to be implementing something called differentiated service delivery, which is giving health care according to the needs of those who want it, to the extent even of modeling whatever the system to suit what the clients, what persons living with HIV, what persons living with TB need, what will enable them receive the sort of treatment that they need, the sort of health care that they need. All this has been put in place. And one of the key things for persons living with HIV is that we are giving our medications for longer periods, 6 months maximum, then 3 months. But 1 month for those who have just come into care, or those whose viral load is so high that they have to be checked. So they are given 1 month. So you can imagine being given 6 months, receiving 6 months medication, then you go for your refill and you have 1 month. It tells a lot. I've checked with people, they've been getting 1 month. Facilities in regions, would go from facility to facility to find out what quantity do you have, what can you spare us. What does that mean? It means that there's shortage. And the commodities are at the ports in Ghana. It is unacceptable. Last year we had 16,000 new infections. We had HIV infections, 9,000 HIV deaths. Why? when we can push back AIDS. Now we are talking about HIV. I always refuse the AIDS because there's no reason why anybody, any Ghanaian should have AIDS. We have treatment, we have the healthcare, the system is working apart from what we are seeing now. So there's no reason why we should talk about AIDS in Ghana. We want persons living with HIV to live productive lives. We want children born to mothers living with HIV who happen to be infected to live their lives like anybody else. But it is not happening. We are losing so many children. We are losing so many young people. It is unacceptable. So we want you, please, you've been supporting us. Please push this thing forward. Let's, as the chair has already said, of the ED of GOV'T, it takes so long for the medications to get to the facilities. So when we are told they've been cleared, it doesn't say anything. If our people can't go to the facilities and get their medication, they are not available. And we want that to happen. Last year, we were told, oh, the truck has moved, and it will take 6 weeks for it to end the route it had gone on, and then come and pick some more and go along another route, another 6 months. When will it get to all the remaining Ghanaians who need this medication? We offered to help as CSOs. We said we are across the country, so we could offer our vehicles. We were told, no, we can't do something that cannot be sustained. This is an emergency. We are not saying that we want CSOs to continue supplying or transporting commodities. We are saying in an emergency, we should all come on board. That was also rejected. So for me, I don't understand. Well, we've been told something will happen. I am very skeptical because I've heard this over and over and over again, and we are thoroughly